Howdy, everyone. Welcome to Coach's Playbook. It's the 23rd of March, 2021. I'm back after a few weeks of just not being on here, not because I don't love you all, but I can't even remember at this point. That's just the way it goes sometimes. I'm Jack. I'm joined by Dan, JD, Hogue. How are you guys doing today?
Doing
Not
good.
bad.
I was going to say don't answer all at once, and then you all literally answered at once, and it was perfect. I think you're going to like the topic we have today. Dan and I started talking a little bit about it on the podcast we just recorded, is the idea of self-assessing as a trader and recognizing what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. And then it was Hogue who gave the sage advice, just to play to your strengths as much as you possibly can. Sort of like, we make a lot of sports analogies, whether you're in any team sport, any individual sport. Yeah, we use golf, for instance. You're trying to put yourself in a position where you can hit the shots that you hit best. And it's not a whole lot different than trading. So, Hogue, I thought we could start with you and you could tell us a little bit about where you found this and sort of
Well, fun to trader
what it
shout out real
means.
quick.
I'm going to get to that. You don't have to correct me in the first 3 seconds. I've been off for a couple weeks. Dan, who is the trader that is so damn important?
Well, I'm excited. It's a new name. Doing really well in their account. Tam Lee up 2,400, almost $2,500 trading the S&P 500.
Tan Lee, my frustration lies with Dan, not you. You're doing a great job. So, with that, Hogue, tell us about it.
Well, trading futures, day trading, anything market related, it seems to have a tendency to point out our weaknesses um, much more readily than it does point out our strengths. You can read Mark Douglas books, you can read Brett Steenbarger books, even Dr. Menaker will say, there are going to be weaknesses and we're going to have to work on those. But if we focus on those weaknesses, I feel like it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy where we kind of bring those weaknesses out because they become our focus. And I think it's really important to think about the things that you do well in futures trading. And everybody has something that they do well. There's tool, market state, a day, something that you can kind of tell yourself, these are things that are supporting, my efforts in futures trading or any kind of trading, and really kind of focus on those. Because if you can create a self-fulfilling prophecy of loss, you can probably create a self-fulfilling prophecy of success as well. So there's lots of things that I think about on any given day or situation where I'm going to be trying to think of, okay, what is this is this a strength of mine that I'm kind of trading to, or am I succumbing to a weakness? And you got to be thinking always about being in your best interest, and being in your best interest, acting in your best interest is of course going to require knowing your positives, knowing your strengths, and using them.
It's important to be proficient in a lot of things, but I think sometimes people don't develop the aspect that they are stellar at. And if you could be stellar at one thing, that can take you a lot further than being pretty good at a lot of things with a few glaring weaknesses. There's a lot of people out there that have glaring shortcomings with their various parts of their trading or whatever else their craft is, but they make up for it by being the person to talk to about one or two things. And since I already talked about uh, with Dan his sort of strengths and weaknesses, for instance, for me, I said that like one of my strengths has always been uh, trading fast markets. I always like that. It's what drew me into trading initially. It's where I feel most confident and comfortable. And my worst trading aspects are a combination of FOMO and then letting losers run too far. Hogue, you've been on this at this a long time, right? What are still your weaknesses and what do you think are your strengths when it comes to trading?
Um, Well, I've got them. I've got them all. We all have strengths and weaknesses. I would say one of my biggest weaknesses is I've always had a difficult time entering into a market that's already in a trending or one time framing fashion in the daytime frame. If the market is really directional one way or the other right from the open, and I don't get in early, I tend to have a really hard time trying to catch those, waiting for the pullbacks. Sometimes I look for too deep of a pullback and don't get in. Sometimes I don't look for deep enough of a pullback and get stopped out anyway. It's always been something that I'm well aware of, and that I am cautious in and around those types of situations. Um, One of my strengths has always been waiting for a range bound market or a range bound day to establish, and then just to work the extremes to the mean. A lot of people think those are bad trading days, and just through the profiles, that's the tool that I look at. It it's always been one of my strengths is to be able to trade range bound markets and sell above value, buy below value, try and get back to the mean and repeat until it proves wrong. So getting into trending markets, definitely a weakness. Mondays, definitely a weakness.
Oh yeah, I'm totally off my game on Mondays. It's gotten
mm,
worse as I've gotten older, and it's not because
mm,
I'm doing more on the weekends. I'm doing decidedly less.
yeah, right.
So, JD, I'd like to hear what you say. But first, one thing that Hogue said that was really interesting is that how you struggle doing the same things that we give a lot of refrains here. The trend is your friend. Um, don't add the losers generally, unless that's part of your plan. We don't say it because we're perfect at doing it. Everyone does it because those are the mistakes you make when you're trading. None of us are machines like that. JD, what's your strength? What's your weakness?
Well, since joining,
And JD, you can actually turn up a little bit. I lied to you before when I said the turn down.
sure, a little better,
Little
better,
loud now, just a little bit less.
little,
Adjusting on the fly.
little more, a little less.
You're
Are
good.
we're good.
Yeah, you're excellent.
Excellent. So yeah, since joining TopStep about 18 months ago, I've been focusing a lot more on the time of day that I trade. You guys all know we have these meeting schedules and day-to-day projects that can just sometimes get out of hand. A lot of writing and editing, customer communications. We run a lot of promotions. There's just a lot of stuff that needs to get done. So now I've been taking a closer look at my calendar in advance so I can sort of set a schedule. Well, that's what I started off doing, checking my calendar and then setting a schedule for when I could, participate in the market. And over time, over these last 18 months, I've discovered that I do better uh, just simply managing positions during regular trading hours, initiating a position during the early market hours. I love the 5 to 8 a.m. trade. Micros really changed the way I trade also. I'm not trading the minis anymore. I'm strictly trading micros. I'll put a handful on and just manage them throughout the day. And if I have a heavy meeting calendar, I will not initiate a position during regular trading hours. I'll just manage what I have or not even trade at all. And that's the biggest change that I've made in the last year. It's really up my game. I do not do well when we have a busy calendar and I'm trying to trade at the same time.
That's just a smart life thing in general because it'll ruin if you have too much size on, it'll ruin everything else you're trying to do in your life. I can't tell you how many times when I was trading full time, it would be like, it's Friday morning, there's nothing going on. I'm just gonna, trade the open a little bit, get out, take an early day, work out, do all sorts of productive things. But then one thing led to another. Now I'm going to trade. Now my whole weekend's ruined, right? I know I'm coming in Sunday night now to manage some BS position that I put on that I didn't have to. So I think your size thing is smart. And just to go around the rest of the horn, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, I'll start with my strengths. And my strengths are really understanding myself. And it'll be in the quote that I have at the end of the day. It's not so much a quote, but more of a Marine Corps thing that I took away from the Marine Corps. is I know there are certain things about me. Like Hogue said, he's very well aware of what he does that he shouldn't be doing. And I found for myself is to create a strategy that works with some of my weaknesses. I like to leverage in as the market goes against me. Not so much I'm trying to lower my entry price or
That's a
better
fancy
my
way of
price.
saying add the losers, but
I do, but
okay.
it's all based off of the levels that I'm looking at. So within my strategy, it's not max leverage right away on, that first entry point. If the market starts to go against and it gets to another level that I actually have pre-planned, I am allowed to, as Hogue likes to call it, the moron trade. I am allowed to be a moron and act on that execution, but it's all part of my strategy. And that's where I really excel, is honing that strategy to work for me. There are things I'm going to do that I advise against. It is, there are certain things, if it works within your strategy and if you created a strategy around what you're doing wrong, you can kind of play to it and create a strength out of it. And that's my mentality, is I try and look at everything, and there are just things that I'm going to do, and there's really no stopping it. If a level comes into play that I really like, that I'm looking at heavily, I'm okay to get back in or to add on, and I'm fine with that. And so that's really where it comes down to me, is I do have the discipline to trade to my strategy and really not deviate from that strategy. But again, that strategy is built around some of my weaknesses that I'm going to play to a little bit, and I got to balance that. It comes down to a balancing act. And obviously at the end of the day, I try and grade each and every day based off of my execution to that strategy. And if I do deviate from that, why did I deviate that? What can I do to implement to avoid making those poor decisions?
Yeah.
So Dan, I'm sorry, Jack. I was just going to ask Dan. Um, when I add to a losing trade, I consider it more of an accumulation of an inventory in a zone.
Yes, that's
Is that
100% what I'm doing.
that makes
So
you
many
feel
fancy
better,
ways
doesn't
to say it.
There's
Yeah.
ways, you've got to kind of look at it in a way. We say all the time, these levels are not finite, they're areas. And
Absolutely.
as it enters that area, we might really like it and it starts to go against. And I'm not going to put my stop inside that area. Number one, that stop's not going to be in there. The stop's going to be on the other side of that area. So if I'm still within that area, I'm still okay to add into that trade. Now, if we get out of that area and it's showing that there's a reversal or continuing in that direction, whatever I'm trading against, well, then I'm going to start to say, all right, now you're breaking strategy. Now you're stepping out of line. Here's where you just screwed up. And so I do the moron trade, but I do the moron trade within my system.
When I add the losers, I think about it as a philosophical statement of protest against the ruling class. I'm trying to think of other ways we could say this. Usually, I get what you're saying about a zone, and if that's your strategy, if you have a zone of accumulation and you want to put a little bit of your size on at each part, that's smart. That's what we would always do with our trades, and we all have a little bit of a fading mentality, a range thing going on. I don't know if I'm speaking for all you guys, but when Dan and I were talking earlier, there was a bit of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think what you're saying is awesome about playing to your strengths. For instance, I like better in fast markets, so I don't trade every day. I don't trade every other day. I wait until there's something interesting to get involved in, because I know now that my full-time job is not a trader, I don't want to deal with the mental anguish of trading the grind, right? I've done enough of that for this lifetime. So other people can be very successful trading the ranges, trading their levels, but I know that's not me right now. And if I wanted to change that, I'd have to do some significant work at it. And I wouldn't do it until I put that work in. So I just got an open question to any of you. Does anybody have any weaknesses that they're trying to work on right now? And it's cool if I'm just bringing it. Oh, damn.
I mentioned the one on the podcast today. Like JD's talking about trading at specific times. I am not a breakout trader. I've never claimed to be. I've kind of spoken against them a lot, that they tend to not be as successful as looking for that market to come back to the mean, like Hogue was talking about. But I have found this last year and a half or so I've had some really great trades pre-market looking for a breakout. The losses trying to find the breakouts pre-open are counteracting the profits in there. I am trying to really focus right now on, if I'm trading pre-market, what has to be within that setup to execute on that. And that's something I'm really working on right now, because I do like catching that pre-market open in the equities. I started trading the bonds. We open a hell of a lot earlier. I've always traded overnight. I've market hours really didn't affect other than where I was sitting for work that day. So I do like those times, and it's just a matter of really defining that setup and that I need pre-market to go ahead and execute. And that's something I'm working on right now.
Yeah, that's definitely, I like that, Dan. You're like something out of a self-help book. You're becoming a better trader through the power of self-reflection.
Well,
And I think that's
again,
what
it
we're
goes to my
trying to.
quote that I have for today.
Well, we'll get to that shortly. I think that, as we said in the podcast, is I think everybody, if you're watching this, it's definitely helpful to do your own assessment of where your trading's at. And you know what? Say it out loud too, because some of your problems with your trading, uh, just identify them or tell them to something else, or tell them to someone else, someone who's going to hold you accountable, is a big first step in stopping the process, right? I'm not even an armchair psychologist, but I've heard that's what you do with bad habits. I know a thing or two about bad habits, though. So
we do have some comments in here coming from some traders just talking about some of the things that they're working on. And so first off, I want to give shout outs to Murph Level 2 and Nambega. I apologize. I probably said that one wrong. Level 2 is just saying he stopped focusing on his weaknesses and looking for the proper setups and his strength. Kind of goes to exactly what we're talking about here. Murph, biggest weakness is lack of experience and is still learning and trying to understand the market. And I think that's good to recognize. I think that's a lot of traders right now. But his biggest strengths are the positive attitude and work ethic. And I got to say, Murph, you seem to be one of the most positive people every day in these videos. So great for that. And level 2 is Jack. You drink too much Jack on the weekends, apparently.
Let me see. I got the thing. Well, I got my, let's see. There's the old bar card. Try to keep it.
Try to keep it in an arm's distance.
Yeah. Well, no. I've been putting on a much bigger effort this year to get back in shape, because I turned 34 recently, and it's just been a gradual decline, but I'm feeling better.
And then, we got a great question here. Is it normal to be in a drawdown for over 2 weeks? That's a really tough question. Oh, what do you got?
I've been in them.
Do you mean like down over 2 weeks?
Yeah, so I read as we got it here. So you will have losses that'll last for a couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, there's, I've known people that have had month-long drawdowns or even half a year long drawdown.
Yeah, you have one of them talking on this video right now. I think it depends on what your trading style is, and I think it'd be more that's pushing where it could be a little bit of an issue. Generally, I always was trying to get positive in a month, and I think over the course I only had one losing month, but it was losing with an exclamation point. So it's something to keep an eye on, but you can't worry about what's already happened.
I think it takes a little bit more than 2 weeks to say if your strategy is effective or not. It depends on the market states that you're trading in. Depends on, are you executing as you planned? Are you making constant adjustments throughout those 2 weeks? There's a lot of questions involved. I think, I look at it, if my strategy is not effective over, a month span, I'm really struggling over that month, then I'll step back and try to adjust. But I'm not one to quickly shift and change just in 2 weeks because I've had a rough 2 weeks. That's part of trading.
You don't want to become a strategy drifter.
No.
There's probably something, there's the recognition of the market state that, or a change in volatility. It's generally something that the market changes, not something that your strategy changes. And again, it may just be a very gentle tweak in something that you're doing that can help straighten that out for you. But it's they're uncomfortable. Nobody likes them, but they are kind of part of the industry, part of the business.
Yeah,
Just
and
don't lose too much.
I'd be interested to know too if it was a 2-week drawdown in which you're losing a little bit consistently every day, or did you take a big loss 2 weeks ago and are kind of climbing back? That might
Yeah, that was
influence how you move on from there.
kind of my thought too. I mean, you could set parameters. If you're dropping 30% of your account value in 2 weeks, then you need to take a step back and reevaluate what's going on. But if your strategy consists of small losses that you're not risking a huge amount, even still, you could just wait for it to play out and see what happens.
Yeah, we got one more question here from Bear Bullishy. I like this one. Is Top Step legit? Thinking about joining? Well, I think it is. We're all here. We got a lot of payouts, got a lot of funded traders. People are making money.
Well, I mean, like I'll say that the clearest definition of legit, it's we do exactly what it says we do. So what I would do is read everything, look at the price you got it, look what you get. And if that seems like something that's interesting to you, like, I don't know your position. I can't tell you what you should do or not. But if you think it's worthwhile, then we will do what we say. That's kind of how I define legit.
We're pretty face value here. What you get is what you see. And if you have questions, we have a support line you can always call. And then Nembega says, took a big loss, about 10%. So sounds like one big loss kind of affected things. Understand what you did wrong in that loss. What was it that caused the loss of, that large loss, and try not to act on that again.
And you know what? I think that that's a positive thing. If you took the one big loss and you can identify sort of why you did it, I was going to say it's more concerning if you were consistently trading each day and losing each day the same amount, say, as an example. That would speak to maybe there's something overall not going well, where maybe with the one big loss, there's you get bad beats sometime, or you did something wrong. If you can recognize what that is, or when you'd get out in the future, you can eliminate those. And it seems like the other things you're doing are working out okay.
Yeah, we got a nice compliment here from Bear Bullishy. Y'all give me real vibes. Glad to hear that.
I'm all about trying to vibe, right? I try to, honestly. So thanks for all those questions. Those were great. Dan, with that, I know you've been itching to give a Marine quote.
So it's not so much a quote, but in the Marine Corps, we're big on leadership principles. And the number one leadership principle that we discuss and we talk about and really defines like ourselves as Marines is knowing yourself and seeking self-improvement. I think that goes very well with this concept of trading. You have to know what you do well. You have to know where you struggle, and you have to know how to balance those to continue progressing.
That's really good. I don't have too much to add to that. Everyone out there, if you're involved with the Market Mania brackets, it's the first round today. So we'll get those scored up and give away some prizes. Otherwise, that's about where I'll leave it. I'll give it to our, what's the opposite of Baby Yoda? Fully grown adult Yoda, John Hoagland, to sign us off.
Trade well, you will.
Okay, we're not going to beat that. We'll see you guys all next week. Until then, keep on